Hi guys, it's Emily from Noble Novels and welcome to today's video. This is why I love contemporary fiction. Now, as always, I don't plan things. I haven't got anything in order. I've got some books that I want to show you that relates to why I love contemporary fiction, but I've not planned it because I've decided that I didn't want to. So I thought I would do this video in honour of my birthday because it's my birthday the day before this goes live. So I thought, why don't I talk about something that matters to me, and that is contemporary fiction. Now, I don't know how many views this is going to get, but I just wanted to share my love of that because I find that contemporary fiction for so long has been prejudice. It used to get called chick lit, which annoyed the hell out of me. But there is so much more to this genre. It isn't a stereotypical. It has very many layers, and it also can hit all the different audiences. There is something in this for everyone. Now, you all know I've got my favourite contemporary authors. I've got Paige Toon, I've got Heidi Swain, I've got Jill Sims, who writes another books that I've loved. I've got so many. I've done a video for that, which I will link down below, my 5 favourite contemporary authors. But there is so much. It is a genre that used to have very boxed. It used to be boxed purely into romance. And yes, romance can be quite good, but there is more to that. There are books in this that go for friendship. There are books that go for families. There are books that centre on communities. And also contemporary fiction can really tackle some hard-hitting issues. There are some contemporary books with great disability rep, chronic and invisible disability rep. The first being Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I don't have with me because my sister Charlie is still borrowing it. So that book really was one that really made me feel seen because obviously you know I have chronic pain and I have invisible disabilities. I'm blind in one eye, I'm deaf in one ear. There is going to be an official announcement with the title of it, but I am doing a readathon in May with the lovely Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf about chronic pain and disabilities. And obviously we'll go into that more. But Get a Life, Chloe Brown was the first book I read that really made me feel seen. And yes, obviously that area can be is actually in a lot of other genres, but today I wanted to say Get a Life, Chloe Brown was a great book on that. It had great disability rep. It talked about fibromyalgia, which is something that's connected to what I have now, but obviously mine is more. I'll go into that more in the future video. But yeah, I've got another book in here that's related, that has other rep, but it's from young people. But yeah, that was something obviously I find contemporary fiction doesn't just go down the romance line. Another book we've obviously got The Heart Principle, which is part of a series, and this is by Helen Huang, and this has a great autism rep in it, and it also has another area that's contemporary fiction, which is a bit of saucy sexiness. And that is also prominent in some of the other videos, like on the other books, like Love on the Brain. And yeah, Love on the Brain is another great one. And they really celebrate women's rights and women's literature. And they put women as not just the weak women. This shows women as strong women and intelligent women. And this one's about violinist Anna Huang and her son, who accidentally achieves career success in a video. And then she struggles with romance. But this series, and it's also, this series is the Kiss Quotient, The Bride Test and The Heart Principle. And this is such a great book. But this has great autism rep. And that's another thing that I think contemporary fiction, it has got great elements that can introduce that, but don't focus on that. So it's a part of the storyline, the autism rep, but it's also written, this is another one that's written by an autistic author. Again, this is something that I'm going to be promoting for the readathon. But that's another thing about contemporary fiction. It interlingers up with the romance. So it makes it not just the key part of the book, but it does include it in the book. And the romance, and yes, these books are very, very saucy. Love on the Brain is very saucy, but it's done in a way that you see it as part of the story, not just that. So that's something else, that's one of the books that represents that to me. Then we've got a book that I was sent for a tandem read-along. They're great for read-alongs. and it's a book I read recently, and that's My Extraordinary Life by Rebecca Ryan. Now contemporary fiction has got new authors that are coming out. It's got authors that are, it's a really growing industry and growing genre. But this book for me tackled grief, and that's another thing that needs to be dealt with very well. And this one really did that, and it also inspired me. I find some contemporary fiction it's not, like I said, it's not just the romance, and this one was one that was very inspirational. Yes, it had a romance in it, but it also had so much more makes us look at our lives and think about how we can improve and what we are focusing on. And this to me focused on what do we want in our lives, and about our lives, how ordinary our lives can be. And I think that was something I like about this, feeling seen. And that was another part of that book that did make me think, because I think in my 30s I was very my 20s and 30s I was trying to grow as a person and I couldn't find my identity. And it was only when I joined BookTube and found that part of me that I realised it was okay to be me. And I think that was something that this book spread out to me. So that's another part of contemporary fiction that I like. They get you thinking, and they can hit all age ranges. Later on in the video, I'm going to, obviously, I don't know how long this one's going to be, but there are books for every age genre, and I think that is what I love. I love the protagonists of all ages. And the next book that I'm going to recommend is another one I got I did pick my tandem read along. This is the Last Library by Freya Sampson, but there is also The Library by Bella Osborne, and I've loved both those books because they're books that have books in it, and I love that. I love contemporary fiction, or any fiction, but contemporary fiction that talks about libraries. And The Library and The Last Library has great community aspects, which is something else that's very prominent to me, and something else in contemporary literature that I really love. And this one is about a local library assistant, June, who's more comfortable with books than people. How often, I am considered an extrovert because I am a chatterbox, but I also have a real introvert side, which is I love hiding in my books. I love going into my books. I went back to the library to see my sister last week, Charlie Brooke Reads. She volunteers in a library, and I've got to go back there very soon because I walked in and it was like, hadn't realised how much I'd missed it. So in the next few weeks, I'm definitely going back there and borrowing some books. But this one as well, it talks about books, and it talks about libraries and how we go into a library and we go into our books and we can share that love and that love of books. Yeah, so I really loved this book because of that, and I loved the references to so many books in this. I think, what was it? There was so many books in this. When I was reading this book, I found loads of references to books. Pride and Prejudice is on the first few pages, which is one of the best classics. And contemporary fiction can talk about books, and it's done so well, and I love that bit. I love that element to this book. And another reason why I love it is that you do get authors that are around and that write regular books and write books that are coming out regularly. And obviously I could not do a video on contemporary fiction without talking about my favourite author ever, Page 2. Now, this is probably my favourite book by her. It's one of her earliest books, and obviously I know as authors grow, they change their writing taste and they change their writing, and it develops. But even though this is one of her first books and one of her least favourite books, this was one of the books that got me into contemporary literature again. I was someone that started off with Jane Green. She was one of my earliest contemporary authors. But Page 2 is someone that my sister Vicky loves, and she brought me over these books, and this was a book that I literally fell in love with because it had a bad boy in it, Johnny Jefferson in it. And I loved that I fell in love with this character, and he appears not just in this book, and he has a sequel, Baby Be Mine, and then there is the Jesse Jefferson, his daughter's storyline, which is in the YA area, and that's Jesse Jefferson books, and he appears in those. And also something I love about contemporary fiction, something I love about Page 2's books, is she links characters from other books into each book. So you kind of, every time you read a book by her, you're like, oh, which character am I going to see? And then a character will pop up from a previous book. you just get so excited, and it's like the excitement of seeing characters again. And I love that. I love that her books interlink characters. I love that you see people and you see how characters have grown, and that you get a short story. Her short story book is probably one of the only short story books I actually loved. But this one was like, I loved the character of Johnny. I loved the bad boy, and I loved the fact that at the start of this book we had his assistant, who obviously we all know he gets with, and seeing the characters grow over the book, and then you seeing them in other books is just hug. It's a hug, and it's a bad boy, and I love reading about bad boys because I used to have a real thing for them before Chris. But that's something that I love, is characters that appear in other books, authors that you grow to love, authors that you cannot wait to release their next books. Page Tunes one's coming out very soon in April, and I'm chomping at the bit to get it. I think it'll be literally, on the day it gets released, I'm rushing out to buy it. I don't always want to buy them on Amazon. I think I'm supporting Waterstones a bit more, and I might rush out and go and get it there. Get my points from Waterstones. Then another author that I love is Heidi Swain, and her books are community based. And this is this book was released last year. I think I got it another. Yeah. But this was one I wanted anyway, and it's part of a series. It's the Nightingale Square series, and she writes different series, and I love that about her. I love Heidi Swain's writing series. I love that you're never sure what series you're going to get. She's got her first standalone book that's coming out in April as well. I can't wait for that. But we've got the Nightingale Square series, which I've loved. We've also got her Winthorpe Hall series that I love. And then you've got the Seaside Village one. I can't remember the name of that series. And you've got books again that appear in other books, and I loved that. This one here was probably one of my favourite books of hers, and that was because it talks about a lady who works in a care home. So you've got older protagonists, you've got the community aspect of the Nightingale Square, so you're seeing books that were in other books, which I loved. It's like revisiting a family, and I love that. I can't describe how much I love that. And this is about the community of Nightingale Square and how they welcome Beth in. And then you've got you've got love stories, but it's not just the love story. The community aspect in these books is something that I have a real passion for, and I love, because I love communities. There have been various different communities over my life that I've been in, various people that have come and gone in my life, but community is very important to me. Friendship is very important to me, so I love that. Then the next thing is families that are in books. Now, I've loved reading books about sisters. Now, we've obviously got the Brown Girl series, which is Brown Girl Sisters, which I absolutely love. And I love books about sisters because I'm part of a trio of sisters. Obviously, you all know Charlie from Charlie Brooke Reads. Yes, I keep shouting her out, but she's my sister and she's my bestie. And I love our younger sister, Vicky. She is amazing. She loves books as well. Well, she likes books. She doesn't love them like me and Charlie. But books about families. Family is something that's the most important thing in my life. My kids, Chris, my mum and my sisters, they're my world. They are my best friends in the world, and they're the people that I trust more than anything. So I love books about this. And a recent book that I read that was released last year, which was The Impulse Purchase by Veronica Henry. And this is one that talks about family a lot, because we have 3 lead protagonists from 3 different generations. But you also have the 4th generation as well, isn't it? The little pops in. You've got Cherry, Maggie and Rose, mother, daughter and granddaughter. Then you've got Rose's granddaughter Rose's daughter that appears as well, which is quite sweet. And how they all connect together. And they're very strong women, very much so they all have their own different stories. But the way this interlinks their stories is done beautifully, and I absolutely loved it. I loved how family affairs and how your family supports each other. Now, unfortunately, my nan has passed away quite a while ago, but she had a very big influence on me. Her love of books, her love of stories was something that was my first sort of inspiration into getting into books and getting into reading as a child. And she is someone that inspires me, and I think that's another thing. Older protagonists in books about older relatives really does feel close to my heart. And my nan was one of my favourites. She was an inspiration for me. She had 8 children. My mum's one of 8. And my aunts and uncles are lovely. And I just love books about families. And that's quite prominent in contemporary literature, families in books. And that's something that's very, very special to me. Now, the next one is also about books that made me feel seen. And obviously I've talked about Get a Life, Chloe Brown, but another series that made me feel seen that I'm rereading at the moment, and that's the Why Mummy Drinks series. I'm not saying I'm an alcoholic or anything like that, because I don't drink that much, especially at the moment with my Reynards. I really am not drinking very much. But this was a book series that made me feel seen in my motherhood. Now, motherhood's not been something that's I found particularly easy. I did have postnatal depression with both my children, and it's something that is very hard. That was very hard. And I am not the kind of mum I thought I would be. I remember my mum's one of, like I said, she fostered, she child-minded, she was a natural mum. It felt she really slotted it, and she was an inspiration for me. Charlie was a major, major inspiration for me. And I thought I had to be the kind of mums that Charlie and my mum were. But I'm not, I'm different. I'm different. I'm not the kind of mum that my whole world centres around my kids. They have groups, they have other things, and they are the most important thing in my life. Don't get me wrong, I love them more than anything. But this was the first books that made me feel like it was okay that I wanted more for my life than just being a mum. I wanted to be a mum. I wanted to have my own interests. I wanted to have my own loves, and it was okay to be like that. And this book was brilliant because it was about a mum that she's now a similar age to what I am, a bit younger than me in this book, which obviously as the series goes on, she kind of gets older. And she was like, she wasn't perfect, and in this book series, she's not perfect. She has her faults. She gets angry at them. She shouts at her kids. She gets cross. She gets messy. She gives them what food that's easiest because the kids are kicking off. And God, my two, blooming heck, they're right funny with food. But I'm reading this at the moment and rereading it, and I'm loving it because it's funny and it's motherhood, and it's a mum that, like, she goes off and has a couple of drinks and she has a laugh. And I've become a better mum since I realised that being a mum is not just the bit that doesn't just have to be it for my kids. I don't have to do everything for them. I'm encouraging them to be independent. I'm encouraging them to be happy in themselves. And by making myself happy, I'm making them happy. And that's what I loved about these books. And that's why I can't wait to pick this up once I've read my Body Read book today. Put it in there. I want to read it. But I love that series. And that's something else. Contemporary fiction can show you that. Another book that I read last year, and it was one that I was given as a gift, and that's Confessions of a 40-something. I don't want to swear, but yeah. I am obviously 40 now that when the day that this video goes live, I'm 44. God, I feel old. But obviously this one is a 40-year-old who is not a mum. And I don't have that in common with the lead protagonist in this. But she messes her life up. She's not perfect. And I think that's what I love about these sort of books, that they're not perfect. They don't project best that you're going to be hit our age and you expect to be, that life is a bed of roses and you're going to be the perfect person. And every person has got their own journeys, their own lessons. There are some people in my age that have got mums, some people that aren't, some people that had kids later, some people that had kids earlier. We are all very different. But by now we should be happy in ourselves and learn that it's okay to be you and okay to feel whatever way you want to be. And I love that. I love being that it's okay to be me. Contemporary fiction really does make you think about that. Then you've got contemporary fiction for every age. You've got the young YA contemporary, and this is a book by a YA contemporary that I love. It's another one that I'll be recommending for the readathon, and that's A Quiet Kind of Thunder. And this is about a girl who doesn't talk. She's selective mutism. Her boy that is deaf. They understand each other perfectly. So there are contemporary fiction for the YA genre, and I love that. There's some really good contemporary fiction. It's not something I can read all the time because obviously I'm a lot older than the YA market. But there's also, we've got middle grade contemporary fiction, which is quite sweet. You've got YA contemporary fiction, which is good. And then you've got contemporary fiction for other ages. But these sort of books, Bridget Kemner's got some YA contemporary fiction that's really good. She's a YA fan. She writes a lot of YA fantasy. That's where her sort of go-to is. But she does write some really good YA fiction. Sarah Bernard's got some other great YA fiction. I'm trying to think of other people. I've got some other books by diverse authors that are in the YA area, and that's going to be something that's going to be really exciting. It can really go for everybody, and I love that. And then lastly, you've got books with YA protagonists, with older protagonists. You've obviously got, now I know Charlie from Charles Heathcote he's not a contemporary author, he's a fiction author, but he's got books that if you like contemporary, go for him as well, because that's fiction based, but it's not contemporary. And he's got obviously our Doris. You've got Saving Missy by Beth Morey, which I absolutely love. But then a book that I don't shout out enough, and this is one that I'm going to be listening to on audiobook this month, and this is The Switch by Beth O'Leary. This has an amazing older protagonist, and this is about two genres. So you've got Lena, who is a young lady. She is having a sabbatical from her life. Her life has been a bit chaotic. She had something that's happened and she feels like she's stuck. And then you've got Eileen, who is the older protagonist in this book, and she's a great inspiration. And I love older protagonists in books. And like I said, Saving Missy's got a great older protagonist. Eileen is a great older protagonist. Doris, there's great protagonists of all ages so that they can really fit. They're really inspirational and they're really fun, and they show that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can have fun. Eileen in this book, she goes out and she goes and gets her life back. She has some really good fun, and she goes on some adventures, and she shows that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can still go out and live your life. And when Eileen, the grandmother in this, goes out and goes and has fun, it's brilliant. I absolutely loved it. And that's what I love about contemporary literature. You've got protagonists of all ages, and they are really inspirational. And these are books. And finally, the reason why I love contemporary books are that I can read them in the evenings. I find historical fiction or classics, they are best to be read, or like thrillers, you certainly don't read in the evening. I read my contemporary literature towards the end of the day. It's a great genre to read at bedtime. That and middle grade, I love reading that at bedtime. But they're books that you can read any time of the day. They're books that make you feel like when you need a hug, you can read them. And they are books that make you happy. And there are some that make me laugh, some that make me cry. But they are a genre that I'm not afraid to love. And I'm fed up to back teeth of me of being ashamed that contemporary fiction is what I read the most. Because do you know what? That makes me happy. And I think one of the things that I want this video to shout out is, it's okay to be you. Find a genre that you love and really celebrate that. But don't put contemporary fiction in a box. Don't think it's all romance and flowers and girly pinkness. It's not. It's way more than that. There are contemporary fiction the books that will tackle hard-hitting issues. There are contemporary fiction books that have saucy bits. There are contemporary fiction books that talk about family or friendships. And if you want any recommendations, please let me know. I would happily suggest great books, because, you know, that's what I love. And it's okay to be who you are. And this is a video that I want to go out and say, be happy in who you are. Don't be ashamed of liking whatever genre you bloody like, because being you is more than enough. Something my sister Charlie Brooke has said to me is, be you and celebrate being you, and don't ever apologise for it. So I hope that this has given you some good recommendations. I hope this video has made you smile. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.